back to NBA The Block Party, episode 3, Brothers Debates. I am joined by the one and only King Wells. How's it going, my dude?
What's going on, man? You know what? As a wise man once said, it's a nice night for a block.
Nice night for a block party. We're actually, should say nice day for a block party because we do have the NBA kicking off with some games starting this afternoon. We have a Houston-Detroit game that was being taken place at 12 p.m., and that is currently going on right now as we speak. We have some games throughout the day. 7 o'clock Knicks Celtics, 7:30 Magic Nets, Warriors Raptors 7:30, which actually just kind of got brought to my attention that the Warriors will be sitting majority of their players for this game. So it looks like you got Steph Curry on the shelf, and a bunch of their pieces like Wiggins and I think Draymond, and pretty much their whole team is going to be sitting for this game. So as we kind of
Bad news for the fans, but good news for the Raptors, baby.
so as we approach kind of COVID season, we'll probably be seeing more of this. We are seeing also the Brooklyn Nets hit with a bunch of protocols, and it looks like there are only 2 active players on their roster that aren't either rookies or 10-day signings, is Patty Mills and Blake Griffin. So things should be pretty interesting as we proceed here in the next coming few weeks as COVID protocols hit, as we see kind of players being added to COVID protocols, taken off protocols. We're kind of left in the dark in terms of time frame on all this. Let me give you an example. James Harden was hit a few nights ago with COVID protocols. He's still in COVID protocols. And last night, as the Lakers were planning on debuting Isaiah Thomas, who they signed as a 10-day contract, they also announced that Russell Westbrook cleared COVID protocols. So clearly it's something that is going to be kind of leaving people up in the air, whether or not fans will see their favorite player play. In terms of if you get COVID protocols, you could be back within a game, you could be back within 10 days. So it's kind of hard to really put our finger on who's going to be out for a long period of time as we progress. How do you see this affecting the league, for better or for worse? Obviously, we want to see people play, but teams like Brooklyn, this is actually kind of oddly enough given Kevin Durant some MVP nod, and it looks like he surpassed Steph Curry now in the MVP rankings. And they're still able to kind of win games behind Kevin Durant, but, other teams like maybe Golden State, for instance, if they're losing a lot of their players, this could clearly affect their seeding. Do you think teams have kind of just understood this is the new norm and they're going to just kind of play through this as best as they can, even when you get down to a team with like 7-8 players on the roster active? Or do you think this is eventually going to lead, unfortunately, to what could be a midway kind of suspension of the league, or do you think the plan is to play through this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point here is that nobody really has a choice. At this point, like the whole reason they're doing these COVID protocols is so that they don't stop, right? Like that's why they're being so safe with all this, or trying to be so safe, and probably even more so than they're just going above and beyond. And the whole reason is because they don't want to stop. They don't want to have to take a break. They don't want to have to miss games, postpone games, things like that. It's frustrating for everybody, I'm sure. Even like the players want to play, teams want to play, owners and the NBA, they want to make money, so everybody's frustrated. It's not personal. It's just kind of the reality that everybody's living in right now. And it kind of just is what it is, it sucks, but I'd rather that than writing off this season as well. And I think the only thing you can be hopeful about is that this doesn't affect the playoffs. I think that's when it would really, really start to hurt. But for now, it just kind of is what it is. It sucks, but what can you do?
So one of these things that's kind of I found to be an interesting kind of storyline is how this has kind of affected Kevin Durant and his MVP run over Steph. We obviously saw Steph break the 3-point record a few nights ago. Congrats to him. It's a tremendous feat, especially at his age. But I think there's been kind of a unanimous sort of, I guess you could say, eyes-on effect of Kevin Durant leading this Brooklyn Nets team victories with James Harden obviously being out. They've also announced now that Kyrie Irving is planning on joining the team back for shorthanded road games. Won't be able to practice with the team, I believe, but he will be back there for some road games. What's your thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets? Obviously, come playoff time, Kyrie not being able to play at home games in the playoffs. Does that affect how you see? Obviously, it affects them in the long term, in the big picture. But do you think that's enough firepower with Kyrie playing away games to be able to win a title? Is my question.
I mean, it's better than I'd rather have him playing some than not, right? So I think that's the obvious answer to that one. Um, I think KD does deserve respect, though. He's been playing kind of out of his mind, and yeah, it makes it a little bit more. It kind of sets the stage a little bit more when he's missing a lot of teammates and all that. But like, make no doubt about it, this guy's been he's been dominating, and he deserves it. I'm not saying definitely more than Steph. Steph's having a ridiculous season as well, and definitely props to him for breaking that record. I think it's no surprise that happened for anybody, and he's not just going to beat the record, but he's going to set the bar by the end of his career. So that'll be really fun to see where that ends up. But going back to the Nets, yeah, I think they'll take whatever they can get from Kyrie. I'm not convinced that will guarantee them a title or anything like that, even with him. But I'm sure they'd rather him play some than none in the playoffs if it comes to it.
He won't be back with the team. He was now just placed on safety protocols. So tonight we're looking at probably Blake Griffin, Patty Mills, like I said, being the only two starters. Obviously, that's going to be hard to maintain that first place record. But as we're sitting now, I think it's important to point out that our standings have now, so kind of something we touched on is the Bucks are slowly kind of working their way up the standings, and this is without Giannis. Last game, Drew Holiday looked phenomenal. They did end up losing that last game, but Drew Holiday has been playing out of his mind, so I just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out here. Cavs are still kind of gripping onto that fourth seed, but I would.
Cavs good, man. Cavs looking really good.
Yeah, and Evan Mobley's he's been placed on protocols today, unfortunately, but he was also dealing with a hip injury that kept him out of last game. I think
Darius might be an all-star.
Yeah, Darius Garland's looking really, really good. Really good indeed. Jared Allen's looking phenomenal. Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Love has totally kind of found a way to be effective in 20 minutes. So I'm pretty excited to see kind of what Cleveland plans on doing with that front court, if they plan on keeping it intact and just using Kevin Love kind of as that bench role in the playoffs, or maybe they can now finally ship off Love to a team that's willing to take, because I believe he's got 1 year left next year on his salary, if I'm not mistaken. But I think after that he's clear, if I'm not mistaken. But a team I wanted to touch on here was last night playing the Portland Trailblazers. Like, I ended up catching the last few minutes of the game. I just want to say that LaMelo Ball, for first game back since coming out of COVID protocols, and he looks like an absolute superstar. I mean, some of these moves I was seeing this kid do just last night, and I was a little worried out he wasn't going to have his feet under him after missing so much time. But I'm really excited about Charlotte, and I think Charlotte's going to continue to push the pace every single game. The way that LaMelo just runs the ball up tempo and just kind of leads that offense. PJ Washington has looked like he's kind of finding a nice little niche role again on this team, kind of coming back to form as Miles Bridges' trajectory kind of evens out here a little bit. I think you're going to see PJ Washington kind of come back up to the surface. Kelly Oubre is fitting in super nice. I mean, there's still Gordon Hayward has kind of blossomed back into the player he was last year. You got Rozier coming back. A lot of firepower on this team. I'm really excited to see what Charlotte does. They're sitting at 6th place in the East right now, right underneath Miami and above the Wizards. But I would be not looking forward to playing Charlotte if I'm any of these teams kind of hunting playoffs here in the next little bit. The other thing I wanted to touch on was Anthony Edwards. The other night, he's been placed into protocols now, but he went absolutely bananas, hit 10 threes. Timberwolves are looking really good. They beat the Lakers last night, obviously. I think it's safe to say now that Ant and LaMelo have kind of surpassed expectations on what types of players they were. Because last year we weren't really getting a lot in terms of this being kind of one of the better draft classes. It was kind of notorious for being one of the weaker ones. But how impressed with you? How impressed are you with those two specifically? Because to me, if I look at this season and look at kind of young players, those two have really carved out a lane for themselves and shown me at least that like these two guys are studs. Like you can just kind of see in the way they play at such a young age. But how impressed with you are you with those two? And out of the two, who do you kind of favor? I know most people would probably say LaMelo Ball, but I mean Anthony Edwards is definitely making a case for himself. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely impressed with both of them. Not super surprised. I mean, like Anthony Edwards is still the number one pick, and LaMelo had a lot of hype coming in. I'm probably more impressed with the way LaMelo has kind of answered um, maybe not the questions, but the way the hype train was going for him. You know, it would have been easy to see him kind of disappoint rather than exceed the expectations with that, which I think he's done. You know, so I think that's pretty cool. Charlotte's really fun to watch. I'm actually thinking Charlotte might be one of the best. I'm watching them real closely as far as trade candidates. I think they're kind of on the cusp there where they could go either way, but why not make a big splash if they can? You know, I'm not saying it's necessarily available to them, but I think they're the team that's going to be looking for that, and they should with a guy like LaMelo Ball, like you said, just running the show and energizing everybody. So I think they want to. That's a team I'm looking at for that. But yeah, going back to Ant and LaMelo, you can't. How can you not be really impressed with them? They're right now head and shoulders above their class. No one is even really coming close to what they're doing. So yeah, you got to give them props, and you gotta be impressed. I'm impressed, but I'm not super surprised. You know, to answer your question.
Mm-hmm. I think. Who do you think has the higher ceiling? Like, would you say LaMelo's floor is a little lower than Ant's? Like, I could see LaMelo panning out to be more of a consistent type of player, but do you think Edwards has the higher ceiling? Is that fair to say?
I don't know. I'm not really sure how to answer that. I'm not too sure actually. I think um, it's hard to bet against star power, and LaMelo seems to have that just magic kind of star power to him, which I would, you know, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'd probably lean towards him just for that reason. But I really love the way Anthony Edwards plays. And when he came into the league, some people were kind of talking about him in the mold of like a Dwayne Wade-ish kind of guy. And I know that that's not super accurate, but it's not inaccurate either, you know. And so I really like that type of player. And it's tough to say, man. I'm not sure. Like, I'm probably lean a little bit more towards LaMelo just for the superstar kind of factor that it seems like he has. But that's not to say that Ant doesn't have that either. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's tough.
So then the kind of the third of the trio of those three was obviously James Wiseman, who we should be seeing come January. We've obviously talked about this before, and it seems like a huge mistake now looking back on it that the Warriors would ever pick that guy over LaMelo Ball. But I don't think that's, to necessarily knock what Wiseman can do and what he has left in the tank on his young career.
It's still too early to say that, in my opinion. I mean, even though it's, the way that LaMelo and Ant are playing, I can understand that it's likely that James Wiseman, or let's say it's unlikely that James Wiseman gets to that level that they are. However, I mean, if you start looking at fit and potential roles on a team and what the team actually needs, it's still on paper a really good fit. And I'm not convinced that James Wiseman is not going to grow into exactly what the Golden State Warriors want from him.
Right.
And while he's growing, I mean, he's a young guy. While he's growing and learning in his second year, he's learning from the absolute best in Draymond Green and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. And besides all the little things he's going to pick up about the game itself, just being around those guys in practice and shoot around, seeing how they work, how they take care of themselves. I mean, that's going to do wonders for him. So I'm not. I'm definitely not ready. I'm not saying you were doing that, but I'm not ready to write off James Wiseman. Not at all.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important, like you said, fit and what they actually need from him. And who knows what LaMelo would have been if he was running the show in Golden State. I don't think he would have necessarily had the keys as early as he would on a team like Charlotte to really be that guy. But I think a player of that caliber, you would only assume would be able to find a way to make it work. And then imagine a guy like that underneath Steph
It would have
Curry.
been a new kind of splash
Yeah,
brothers there.
yeah,
But you know what might have happened there is if that happened, I don't think we would see what we're seeing from Jordan Poole. I think he would have become expendable
yeah,
and
exactly.
might not have developed this way. So I mean, there's always little variables and ripples, right? Like the butterfly effects or whatever that happens, and
Right, right.
it's tough to say. It's just a tough call, but I totally get where the question's coming from.
So I want to move on to the Los Angeles Lakers, who unfortunately lost to the Timberwolves last night. Bit of a scare with Anthony Davis. When is there not a scare? It feels like on Anthony Davis, but this one was actually after, who was it? Sorry, their young kid there, McDaniels, I believe, fell on his leg, fell into his leg
Okay, I didn't see that.
after a screen, and the video going viral now is AD basically collapsing in the tunnel in pain.
Shit.
Which is never a good sign. Obviously, this leaves the Lakers in a bit of a mess. If they weren't already in a mess, they did bring in Isaiah Thomas last night, who did end up.
Which I love, by the way. I really love that addition. I think he can add a little bit of scoring punch and shooting that they not. It's not that they don't have it, but
They
at
need
that
right
position,
now that they
it's a
need.
little
Yeah,
light, and
right.
and it's a nice contrast to Russell Westbrook. So I really like that move. I really like that. I think he's going to fit in quite well.
He scored 19 last night. Looked pretty effective. Obviously, without Davis being there, and who knows at the length of the injury. They said there was no structural damage this morning, I believe, which is good. But
That's good.
obviously, this trend of Davis going down is not something you want to see as a Lakers fan. There's been tons of rumors, tons of talks of a possible Dame Lillard deal, of talks of moving Westbrook, and that being internal discussions about trading Westbrook at the deadline. My thing with the Lakers, and we've talked about this before, is health. If they can stay healthy, I think Anthony Davis and LeBron is a perfect 1-2 punch on paper. Can that, be effective in the playoffs when health is the main concern? I don't know. Do you think, with the possibility of the Lakers kind of seeing a repeat scenario with this whole Davis scare, that the idea of trading him becomes a little bit more incentivized just based on, number one, we need availability. With a guy like LeBron, you can't be wasting full years, full playoff chances and opportunities, like every playoff opportunity with LeBron at playing at this level. Because I think the thing that's the most frustrating as a LeBron fan is that it's not like this is like LeBron is seems like he's always showing up. It seems like he's still got it in the tank, So you wanna obviously put the right pieces around him to succeed. Is Davis and his health the right piece to put around LeBron? I know they won. Obviously, they looked great in the bubble. We know they probably have what it takes. You also have, um, you know, you have like guys like Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard coming back, kind of forming that championship team, kind of into what it was in the bubble. But without Davis there, I mean, it's hard to imagine them going far with kind of just Brody and LeBron and the team around them. Is the possibility of an Anthony Davis trade looming? And do you think if they were able to get a guy like Damian Lillard, like my thing is now, where does that leave you with Lillard, Westbrook, and LeBron? And are you running just Dwight at the 5 permanently? Are you playing small ball? What are you running DJ at the 5? Like what's the plan here? Or do you think that would inevitably come with a Westbrook trade followed right after? Like would it have to be a full rebuild around LeBron if they pull this off, if they go for a trade like this?
Well, I think the biggest question with that is if Portland would even do that, because if that's the thing that goes along with the player, with your first question there about is this making the Lakers more inclined to trade Anthony Davis? Like I think obviously yes, because if you're thinking it, that means the front office probably has been thinking about it for like the last year at least. So they've been ahead of this. I'm certain of it. But the issue here is that if the Lakers are getting more comfortable trading him. The other side of that is that other teams probably want him less as well. You know, if he's less appealing to the Lakers, it doesn't mean he's going to be more appealing to somebody else. Um, so that's an issue there, and that's probably the main thing. I mean, I wouldn't want to get ahead of of ourselves talking about a
I don't want
trade for
to. I
Damian
don't know if
Lillard
we want to.
because I'm not really sure if Portland is going to be super excited about that. I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to be. It's still Anthony Davis, and he's still a game changer. But if the Lakers are thinking of passing on him, other front offices are not stupid. Maybe some of them are, but for the most part, they're not. So that's the first thing that you gotta think about. I think also they are looking at possible trades and potential trades with Westbrook. But with Westbrook, that's almost harder, almost harder to trade him. Because well, no, it is harder to trade him because his contract is huge, and he doesn't easily fit in with every team as you're seeing with the Lakers now. So that's an issue there. And then the other thing you were talking about with Anthony Davis about is he the right fit with LeBron, or do the Lakers have a chance with these injury problems? Like I mean, they made a choice to trade for Russell Westbrook, and he's supposed to be their safety net in
The
case something
stories are for
happens
the
to Davis
Lakers,
or
so
LeBron. So yeah, I mean, do I think that it just Russell Westbrook and LeBron James is going to win you a title? Maybe, but I wouldn't feel super confident about it. But obviously, the Lakers did when they made that move. That's why he's there.
Right. But I mean, obviously, I think the idea behind that move was to pair with Anthony Davis and LeBron. But I totally hear what you're saying. Is that going to fall on something that Portland wants to end up doing? Does that make sense for Portland? I think the way I kind of look at it is Anthony Davis is still a very young player. He gives you a level of defense and depth that a guy like Lillard just can't bring you. Dame's been battling injury all season, that abdominal injury. Is it working in Portland? I don't really know if I have the right to say if it's working or not. It's still early. CJ's obviously got the collapsed lung. They're not fully healthy. They're definitely trying things with their rotation. They ended up flipping Larry Nance into the starting lineup instead of Robert Covington. They brought Covington off the bench, and it's looked really, really good. I think there's still some wiggle room that they still have kind of a chance in their eyes of winning with that team, but I think it's just a matter of, um, can it line up here where both teams kind of see a switch in these players being best for their franchise? I think a guy like Davis, like you said, if they know the Lakers are shopping him, it kind of would lead you to believe that that's a bit of a scary thing, or that's a little bit of a lack of faith. So I kind of understand what you're saying from that perspective, but I still think Anthony Davis is a young player who has a bright future. The one unfortunate thing with Davis is just health. Like, can he stay healthy? It's never been a matter of can Davis produce when he gets the minutes. Can Davis produce in the clutch even? It seems like he's always been able to, he's had issues with his shot, issues with free throws, but it's never been to me an issue of Anthony Davis producing. It's been an issue of can Anthony Davis stay healthy? And I think that's the one that a lot of teams would have question marks on. So, I was kind of curious to see, because I thought Kemba to the Lakers was kind of something that might have happened here, but I think with the addition of Isaiah Thomas, that's something that's probably less likely. Um, I also was hearing rumblings that no one in the league really wanted Kemba Walker, that there was no trade interest in him, and for such a small contract, you'd think that would be something that a team would be willing to explore, but it's looking like Kemba might end up finishing the year just on the side. It's pretty sad, considering it looked like it was going to be kind of a rejuvenation year for him. I did just also want to touch on the Rockets game that just happened. The Pistons-Rockets just finished up here as we're going. It looks like Sadiq Bey had a pretty good game. Cade Cunningham had a really good game. And the Rockets have now sneaked. Like, I don't know if you've been following the Houston Rockets like a lot, but they've been kind of sneakishly winning, kind of under the radar here, with a depleted team, with no Jalen Green, with some of their young pieces. Alperen Şengün is kind of slotted into a 20-minute role night, but he's looked to me really, really good. And I hope as the season progresses, we kind of clear up some minutes for that kid. There's been a lot of injuries they've been facing, but do you think Şengün is or let me put it this way. Do you think a Christian Wood trade at the deadline is something we might see to kind of clear
Yeah.
up minutes for Şengün? Doesn't that make sense for the
Yeah,
Rockets?
it's necessarily just to clear up minutes for Şengün. I think they want to tank, and I think
Yeah,
Wood is one of the better value contracts in the entire league. So he's a really nice asset that if they don't trade him, it's going to go to waste.
right, right.
So I think a little bit of a double whammy there, but definitely I would look out for a Christian Wood trade.
Mm.
And and if that was to happen, yeah, Şengün, he's awesome, man. I had a feeling about him seeing him play in the summer league. Um, I think he's going to be really good and really good for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think as the year progresses, we're going to see more and more opportunities, minutes open up for him. And I think a Christian Wood trade, like it doesn't really fit the timeline of the Houston Rockets, but like you said, it's a really good valued contract. Where do you think it makes sense for him? Could you see the Raptors possibly making a play for Wood, or is that
Being interested, but to be honest, I'm much more interested in Miles Turner than I am in Christian Wood.
sure makes sense?
I it's kind of a problem is that, and not just Christian Wood, but like same thing, Miles Turner or even Sabonis, and a lot of these centers that are on the block, these big guys. There's not a huge market for a big man because most teams have like, while maybe they don't have like a superstar all-star big, most teams have like their guy, that just gets the job done one way or another, and no real reason to upgrade that position unless it's a no-brainer trade. So I think that's kind of an issue, that it's good for a team like the Raptors, who definitely need a big, and would really, it would favor them to do a move like that. But where the rest of the league, I just don't think that teams that are trading bigs like that are gonna find a lot of value. So it's tough to say where, who's gonna try and trade for Christian Wood.
Even though the ability to stretch isn't an issue for Wood, you don't think that will kind of factor into a team being more open? The fact that he can stretch the floor, you think that doesn't affect it, or do you think it's still that just hit more of his mobility on defense and
No, I'm not saying it because like he's not good enough to demand um, people, or to get people interested in him. I think it's just more that teams are happy rolling with the lineup. Like look at the Raptors even. Like clearly on paper we need a big, but seems like we're super happy to just roll with what we have. And honestly, it doesn't. While I would love to get Miles Turner, I would be happy with Christian Wood, but I would absolutely love to get Miles Turner. I'm okay rolling with the lineup we have as well. Like I'm not. I don't feel like it's the end of the world every time we line up at tip off. You know what I mean?
for sure? And I think with OG coming back, and he's questionable tonight, I believe. I think that's gonna hopefully help with like the defensive. With playing small ball with a guy like OG in there, just seems like it would be easier than playing small ball without a guy like OG in the lineup. So I think
Yeah.
that could hopefully help their idea, because we've still yet to see a Siakam, OG, Scotty at full force in my eyes. So I still want to see kind of that death lineup take full effect here. We haven't really seen. OG was playing so well, and obviously going down with that hip injury, being kind of held out, delayed the process here. It's made things kind of put on halt to the full potential of defense with the Raptors. So he is questionable for today's game. I would hopefully like to see him inserted back into the lineup so we can get kind of a sample size of that. That would be interesting. Speaking on another kind of injury bummer, was 2 days ago we got announcement of Zion Williamson, who has now been once again kind of prolonged here.
It's not looking good. It looks like a bad injury.
Oh my God, I'm trying to pull up the Pelicans here. Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna pull up, just if I can pull up anything here. Where are the Pelicans? There they are. They're actually winning a few more games. Brandon Ingram's looks better. Let's stick to some positive here, but yeah, I mean, pretty scary stuff. Zion actually receiving foot injections delayed another 4 weeks. I kind of am on the fence now, and I've been kind of feeling this way that he's probably shut down for the season at this point. I don't see them bringing him back this season with what's kind of gone on, and just why even risk it. Something that's kind of worth noting, interestingly enough, is that Zion Williamson has actually played in the first 3 years of his career double the amount of games as Joel Embiid. So kind of food for thought to give some people some perspective. I saw that pulled up the other day. It kind of made me think a little bit about it. But whereas, Zion, or I guess you could say Embiid's kind of grown into his body, kind of found his place as a big with that big kind of heavy set. Zion's game is completely based off athleticism, explosiveness, getting to the rim, jumping high, grabbing rebounds. Definitely a different game style where Embiid, is kind of working on the block, backing you down, stretching the floor. It's not so much dependent on his body, I guess you could say. In a way it is, but not to the athletic ability of Zion Williamson. Obviously this isn't something to feel good about if you're a Pelicans fan. There was kind of talks that he might end up declining that rookie extension and, out of just kind of being unhappy in New Orleans, trying to find a new home. Could you see teams offering Zion Williamson the max rookie extension if he declines that in his first year? Could you see teams going out on a whim to give this guy a chance? A team like the Knicks maybe just saying, fuck it, we'll give you that rookie extension if you don't want to sign it.
I don't think teams can do that. I think only the Pelicans can offer him an extension.
But I think if Zion declines it,
well, then they can sign him, but they can't. They can't.
So it wouldn't be so he can't sign an extension if he declines with his team.
Yeah, he would decline it, and he'd have to play 1 year at the qualifying offer, which is probably like $5 million or something like that.
And then you go into free agency,
which we've seen some players do, but at this point, with the injury history that he have, that would be a major risk.
Right.
Not sure that I see him doing that.
Do you think he plays this season for the Pelicans, or do you think he's probably shut down for the season?
I mean, why would you? Why would you at this point and just embrace the tank and try and lose as many games as possible? Like, it sucks. I would hate to be a Pelicans fan, and I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth, man. Like, this looks like one of those scary injuries that makes me think of like Greg Oden type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a really scary injury. You cannot. The only silver lining is that he's so young that as long as if he takes his time and comes back, he does have time to work his way back. But it's going to be hard work, and that's when you throw in the in shape body stuff that's been going around about him. That's when that kind of makes it even more hard to swallow, right? Because he would have to put in a lot of work and really commit to get back and to get back kind of full force. So, yeah, New Orleans, a really tough place. But I think at this point, there's two things I would do. One thing would be to definitely shut him down and just act like you're restarting. This is day one, and he's, we got to get him back. And maybe that means surgery again. Maybe the first surgery didn't work as well. Maybe he needs another surgery. But I think that's where you go. You just kind of start at zero and work your way up slowly but surely. And the other thing I would do, and it's really the only thing you can do, is because he's so young, again, use this rehab time I'd get somebody on the Pelicans that, obviously you can't get these guys, but somebody like a Draymond Green, PJ Tucker, Kyle Lowry type, some guys that are built big, but that aren't super athletic and kind of use their IQ and their bodies in the best possible way, and try and get those type of vets to rub off on Zion while he's rehabbing, watch the games with him, sit beside him so he can see a different perspective to how he can be effective and not rely on his athleticism so much.
Right.
And I think that could extend his career and make him a better player in the long run. So, like, if I'm New Orleans, that's what I'm doing. I know it's a bit pie in the sky, and it's not a quick or easy fix. But aside from trying to trade him, there's not really any other option.
I was thinking of this the other day, but in that, obviously, Zion, you separate Zion from the Anthony Davis trade because that was the pick they ended up, losing and getting that first pick, and they weren't even kind of slotted to get it. But Brandon Ingram being one of those main assets in that Anthony Davis trade, and Lonzo Ball, looking at things now, obviously easier to look at things years later and be like, what could have been. But how well do you think that Brandon Ingram Lonzo fit on the Lakers would be now? Obviously they probably don't become the players that they are, but I mean, you never know with a guy like Lonzo. I think that's kind of always been his game, but Ingram probably doesn't get a chance to shine as much. But do you think if the Lakers could go back and flip that trade back to what it was, given the circumstances right now, do you think that would be in their best interests?
I'm not sure. I mean, the easy answer is yes, but at the same time,
they won a title with Davis.
Anthony Davis, for fuck's sakes, and they won a title, so you can't really say that failed them. So I don't know. I mean, I don't like questions like that because, like you said, it's always hindsight 2020.
Right.
And there's so many variables to take into consideration. But the best way I could answer it is I think New Orleans probably, even with everything going on, is happy with the way that trade happened and was at the time. Maybe they're not as happy now, considering they lost Lonzo Ball for nothing.
I can't believe that's still, to me, I don't even know how they let that happen. But
yeah. Or it might have been a sign and trade, but I don't think they got much, if they got anything.
I just don't see why that you would let a guy like that go, especially just with what he showed last year. It wasn't like last year he did nothing. He looked good last year.
Yeah. No, some teams have their mind made up about certain things, and it could also be that they thought they were going to go in another direction that didn't end up happening too.
Getting Lowry, right?
Could be a million things, but no, I think the Lakers are happy with the way things have shaken out, and I think New Orleans, even though haven't really helped themselves, I think they have to be happy with it too, because Anthony Davis wasn't staying there, wasn't sticking around.
Right. Mavericks. Luka's been out with an ankle injury. He's been out. I think tonight he'll miss his third game, or if not tomorrow, he'll miss his third game in a row. Mavericks sitting at 14-14, 8th seed in the West. Timberwolves creeping up there, 14-15 after last night, coming for that 8th spot. Given how kind of poorly the Mavericks have played this year, obviously, like we said, Luka, we can see coming back and going full force. But do you think they are going to start hitting a level here of urgency to win? And because teams like Timberwolves, Trailblazers, kind of right there at that 9th, 10th seed, kind of creeping in there. You get talks of the play-in tournament, stuff like that. How win now, or how important is it to get Luka back here for the Mavericks? Because I just don't see them winning a lot of games with him out of the lineup. You think there's a level of urgency in Dallas right now to get Luka back out there, or do you think it's still a little early?
I think so, but I think it's more important to have Luka healthy. So it's So I don't think there's any. They've got pressure, but I don't think that they will get overwhelmed by that and make a bad decision and bring it back too early or anything like that. The way to look at it for them is that this is just a opportunity for Kristaps to take a little bit more control and have a little bit more, exert himself a little bit more into the game. So that's the way they have to look at it. And you got guys like, I'm forgetting their point guard's name there. They bring him off the bench.
Oh, Brunson? Is it Brunson?
Yeah, Brunson. I mean, he's a really good player, and he's going to be due for a big raise this offseason. So they got to lean on these guys a little bit more. It's still early in the season. I mean, we're getting close to the halfway mark.
But, are we though? We're probably still closer to the quarter mark, aren't we? Like, we're over quarter, but I would say like probably still on the early side of halfway. Or am I true?
That's what I'm saying. It's still early in the season, so like they can afford to have Luka out for a little bit. I think at the end of the day, Mavericks are the type of team, in my opinion, that as long as they're kind of in the hunt, they're going to be dangerous. So if they ended up being in the play-in games and stuff,
don't want to play them in that. You don't want to puck. You don't
really would, especially Luka. If he's healthy, you don't want to mess around. I'm not saying that's what they're aiming for, but
right.
I think it's more important for them to be clicking and healthy than it is as far as seeding and positioning. And that's probably true for most teams, to be quite honest. in both conferences. I think.
Yeah.
I think the parity in the league right now is probably, if it's not the best it's ever been, it's the best it's been in a long time. So I
Right.
think most teams kind of feel that way, and everybody's struggling one way or another. Everybody's losing players one way or another. It's a long season. I think it's going to get really exciting as we get close to playoff time.
Mm,
But for now, yeah, I don't think people are too worried about bringing people back
too early.
sooner.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris Middleton just announced as of now. I just got the notification that he will be out again versus the Pelicans. As he's dealing with a knee injury, he was tagged as probable, but they will actually scratch him. Also with Giannis, Bobby Portis out for protocols. So it looks like we're gonna get more of a kind of the Drew show in Milwaukee, which has looked pretty freaking good. I don't know if you caught any of that Milwaukee game last night, but Drew Holiday, I was so impressed with some of the shots he was hitting. He dropped the 40 piece, looked absolutely like the guy that you want running the show with a guy like Giannis out, obviously, and worth every kind of penny of that contract. Defensively, I've never questioned Drew. I kind of was a little worried about Drew going into this season, just with him coming off of that long final stretch, the Olympics, and just like kind of looking exhausted during some of that finals run. But offensively, I've been super impressed with what I've seen from Drew, hitting some really difficult shots, some step backs, some tricky shots, and just playing at a really high level that I know he's capable of. I loved. I think it probably helped that he was playing versus New Orleans. I think he's got a little bit of a vengeance game in there, but I think
Sure.
he looked really really sharp last night, and I was super impressed. Considering that the Bucks are dealing with so much injury protocol, to have a guy like Drew come in there and just kind of establish himself as the leader of the team, I think it's super important for a team like Milwaukee, who is trying to stay within that top three of the East. And they've creeped back in there. We obviously kind of want to touch on Rookie of the Year stuff here. Mobley's missed a little bit of time, and he'll continue to miss time as he's in protocols. Cade, to me, has gotten better every single game. Another really good game from Cade today. So I think we'll have a little bit of Cade and Scotty here kind of running it up for this Rookie of the Year. We've already seen the MVP change to Kevin Durant's favor, it looks like. So I mean, it's probably still early to kind of call Rookie of the Year, but I'm hoping Scotty can kind of make some noise here with Mobley on the shelf and hopefully kind of take back that one spot. I don't know if you've been seeing any of the Cade highlights or kind of what Cade's been doing, but Cade is coming. Cade is definitely coming. I think he's looked really, really good to me. Jeremy Grant, getting hit with that injury, has actually opened up a lot more opportunity for Cade. Also, Sadiq Bey, who had a really good game today as well. Do you think that with that Jeremy Grant injury, though, we could see kind of Cade make a push for that number one spot, Rookie of the Year, just with kind of more opportunity, more shots coming his way? Or what's your prediction here in the next few weeks from the rookies? Also, Franz Wagner shutouts has looked really, really good as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been expecting Cade to round out a little bit. Anyways, I mean, he started the year so poorly that there was really nowhere to go but up, and he was still the number one pick for a reason. So I don't expect him to slow down. I don't expect Scotty to slow down either. Um, I don't know who's going to win it. To be honest, I don't really super care about the Rookie of the Year. It's probably the award I care the least about.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really excite me. I know it's important to the rookies. Obviously they want to leave their mark and everything. But yeah, I mean, Detroit needs something to cheer about. So it's probably a good thing that Cade is making it a little exciting for them, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. And Franz Wagner has looked unbelievable as well. I've been super impressed with him and just what he continues to do all year. I mean, yeah, just like, unfortunately, we should talk about this, but speaking of the Orlando Magic, I was watching some of that game as well last night, Miami, Orlando. And unfortunately, within the, I believe, second quarter, Wendell Carter Jr. went down with a knee injury, which looked pretty scary. He actually had to get wheelchaired off. So that's
Mm.
never something you want to see, especially with kind of the breakout year he was having. Bomba's also dealing with an ankle injury, I believe. So they're going to be a little thin at that front court. I think you're going to see guys like Okiki kind of take a bit of a bigger role here. You're probably going to have guys like Jonathan Isaac come back, hopefully, with a little bit of a bigger role. But yeah, not the best news coming out of Orlando. But that could honestly open up some more opportunity for Franz and what he's been able to do when he gets the chance. He's clearly one of their kind of more poised guys at such a young age. So who knows? Maybe that opens up some opportunity for Franz to climb the leaderboards here. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Josh Giddey, one of your favorites out of Oklahoma City, has looked really, really good. Last game, had a great game. I believe it was like a 17-9-7 type game. Looked assertive, looked smart. Looks like every single game he continues to get better. So keep him on the radar to make a push here as well, because I think he's coming in at full force, and I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. If anything, every game I watch of Giddey, because to me he's been so fun to watch. He almost makes Oklahoma City must-watch basketball when he's on the court. I just have so much fun watching them, which I'm taken aback by, because I honestly didn't think I would feel that way out of Giddey year one. But I mean, the guy played professional ball in Australia. It's a similar kind of thing you see with these guys who play pro ball at such a young age. But every single game I watch of Giddey becomes more and more fun, and he gives me kind of that LaMelo factor. Probably not the same star power, but that same level that he plays at, where he's just pushing the pace, making the right pass. It's fun to watch, and I don't see him slowing down as the year goes on. If anything, I see him getting better as well. So I think a lot is to look forward out of the rookies for sure. Like you said, Rookie of the Year, not the hugest deal, but it's definitely fun to keep an eye on things.
One thing about the Magic too is I expect them to trade Terrence Ross. That's somebody I'm looking at.
Terrence Ross. Yeah,
move.
Yeah. What's his contract at?
He can make some. I don't know, he's around 10, like 10, 12, I think, or something like that. But I'm pretty sure he's in his last year, and he can make not a huge difference, but he can make a difference on a good team. So I expect him to get moved.
When do you think we'll start seeing some of these deals kind of come into full form? Like, if you were to put your time frame on it, now that we've passed the 15th and a lot of these new contracts are eligible for trade, do you think it's still going to creep more closer to February deadline, or do you think stuff kind of maybe pans out here before Christmas? Do you think it's more in the new year we see stuff?
Good question. I mean, I kind of felt like, I think when people get when everybody's talking about that December 15th date coming up, everybody starts to get really excited, and maybe we all expect it like, now the floodgates are open and it's going to be like day one free agency where all the deals start rolling in at midnight.
We didn't really get anything, did we?
Nothing exactly, and that's probably a sign that people are being cautious, which they should. I mean, it's still a weird season. We're coming out of a weird season, so I think all front offices are a little bit extra cautious these days, which is probably a good thing. So to answer your question, it feels like we probably won't get much movement until we start getting closer to the trade deadline and everybody really knows what they have and where they are in the standings and all that. Because that's another thing, like the standings are close, man. It's pretty tight, and especially, you look at a team like in the East, like Boston,
yep,
they're not even in a playoff race right now, and that's
crazy.
Kind of crazy, yeah, exactly. So a team like that, I would have said before the season started that they would be likely at this point to be making a move to get better. Now I think really you kind of got to see how these guys do, because you don't really want to throw all your chips on the table for a team that's really underachieving. With that said, maybe you want to do it to flip the momentum and all that. But it's tough to say right now. So I think a lot of teams are in that space where they just want to see what they have a little bit more, and no one's pushing the panic button quite yet, although I'm sure we'll get a good deal of those teams as we get closer to the trade deadline.
So it's funny you say Boston, but two of the most likely candidates to be traded here, if you type it, I'm just on NBA News and I'm looking up NBA trade rumors. The two kind of most likely of the names that I've been seeing have been, the number one is Jeremy Grant. A lot of people think Grant's time with Detroit is done. He doesn't fit their timeline. They're going to clear up minutes for like guys like Beef Stew and guys in that front court to play with Cade and just stay young, stay tanking. And then there's obviously Grant's name, who's dealing with now coming off a surgery where he'll be out 6 weeks. You also have guys like Dennis Schroeder who have kind of been rumored to be on the block.
Very likely.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on this is like a guy like Siakam. How do you feel about a trade where, maybe call me crazy, but the Lakers maybe give the Raptors Anthony Davis. How do you feel about this? I'm not reading this anywhere. This is just pure speculation on my end, and involving a trade around kind of getting a guy like Siakam in LA with some young pieces, and maybe a pick or two, and then kind of sending Davis to Toronto. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if I would give a pick,
No.
but if there's no picks involved, I don't that you gotta consider that it's still Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and do you think this?
But I don't know if the Lakers would do that.
You don't think Siakam slotting into that Lakers rotation would be a nice
I
fit for
think
them?
it's an interesting fit, but I think this is Anthony Davis. Much respect to Pascal Siakam, but um, Anthony Davis is a much better player. Let's just leave it at that, in my opinion. Anyway,
I agree with you. My thing is the durability of Siakam versus the durability of Davis. Similar kind of contract sizes. I would think that the Lakers would want more than just Siakam coming in, but I guess that's just something I've considered as a possible trade where, a team like the Raptors kind of get a franchise piece, and then the team like the Lakers kind of get a really good piece that not necessarily kind of needs the ball, to be super effective. Like Siakam can still play off ball to an extent. Like he'd obviously want the ball in his hands a lot, but I think you could slide him into the Lakers rotation and he could be effective. I think Siakam could pretty much slot in anywhere and be effective, really. But I'm with you. Like I think Anthony Davis is a much higher valued asset. And I don't want to turn my back on him, but it is getting to the point now as a Lakers fan where I'm like, yo, like I can't really take this anymore of like watching this guy go down every game, and like it almost seems like every second game it looks like the guy has a season-ending injury, and it's just like, okay, at what point do you kind of have to embrace that is who he is? Maybe it's the way he wants to play. I personally believe that he, in his mind, needs to kind of understand who he is a little bit better, which is frustrating because like I think he knows he's capable of so much more, but I don't necessarily think that's the way you have to play. Just because you're capable of it, I don't think you have to play at that certain level. Like I don't think him bringing the ball up the court is helping him. I don't think him wearing low top shoes is helping him. I don't think him kind of like falling every single play as much as it looks like it's I don't think these things are helping him, and I think he needs someone in his ear telling him this stuff, and I just don't think that I'm sure the Lakers have tried, but I just get this impression of him that he just isn't accepting the type of player that he is, and that's frustrating as a Lakers fan because I know what he is, what he can be, and it's probably frustrating for him as a player to be like, I'm capable of so much more than what they want me to be. But I can't go through another year of like hoping this guy doesn't get injured every single time I watch the Lakers, man. And I hate to say this, it's like I'm worried about him going down, and I can't stomach that feeling anymore because it should be the opposite, man. It should be like, damn, can LeBron stay healthy here? But then I go watch the Lakers and I watch Brody and I watch Braun, and I'm like, I'm not worried about these guys getting injured. Like they're playing at a full force, they're jumping, they're going nuts, and like I'm worried about Davis getting banged up in the post and falling over. Like, and it's just getting frustrating as a Lakers fan to deal with this year after year. I know we won in the bubble. I know it was all great, but it's like I said, it's never questioning Davis's ability. It's questioning his health. And I don't know, maybe a team like Toronto, like they've clearly taken guys into their system like Kawhi, who had a history of injury, kind of were confident in what they could provide, what they could kind of shape him into. I think a guy like Davis in Toronto would be a freaking perfect fit. I mean, is there any question about that? Probably not. And I think if you're questioning Siakam's contract, the fit of Siakam, maybe, I don't know. I could see it working out for both parties. Granted, the right pieces are around, probably coming back with Siakam, but what are those pieces? Definitely not going to be OG. It's definitely not going to be Scotty Barnes, right? Is it going to be Gary Trent? Like, is that even possible? Is that too much at that point? I don't know. So those are unanswered questions, but it's food for thought. I didn't read this anywhere. It's just something as a fan of both teams. Obviously the thought's going to cross my mind, but I was curious to get your take on that. And if you would have any interest in
I wouldn't be super excited about that. I'm not completely against trading Siakam, but it's got to be for it's got it like I'm okay trading Siakam, but as long as it's like an all-in move, like we're getting like the perfect fit and in more ways than one and like all in, it's for like a superstar, megastar player. Not saying Anthony Davis is not that, but
So
it doesn't it,
let
it
me
doesn't really excite me that much.
let me follow this up then. Who are you more excited about them trading? So you could do Siakam for Beal or Siakam for Davis. Who would you prefer out of the two?
Davis for sure.
Davis. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
sure,
Interesting.
but both those players are not really like I would be looking for probably a younger player, like a player on the way up too. Like um, I always kind of like the idea of getting Jaylen Brown
Mm,
out of Boston.
mm,
Like somebody that might have more room to grow. We haven't necessarily seen their best yet.
sure.
And kind of banking on that a little bit because that's kind of what you're doing with Pascal too. I mean, I know he's not super young, but he's
Same age as Davis, I think.
well, fair enough. But I think, well, okay, well then yeah. I mean, I still think Pascal has a little bit of room to grow. Um, but compared to like a guy like Jaylen Brown, like I think his best days are still
Ahead of
ahead
him.
of him.
Right.
And I'm not trying to focus too much on Jaylen Brown, but that's the type of
Good example.
thing,
Someone kind of a step behind them in terms of development, but like he's younger,
but
has had
superstar potential and like
right,
pretty sure about it.
right, yeah. Okay, well that's
Yeah.
interesting enough. I was curious to gauge on the Siakam stuff. I'm excited to see what Siakam kind of does, even with OG coming back in the lineup. I think it makes it easier for guys like Siakam to be at full force. Like when you have guys like OG
I
back out
got
there.
one that's interesting, and it's probably along those. It's just coming to me right now. But I would probably be more interested in getting a guy like Paul George than Anthony Davis
Mm,
on the Raptors if I'm trading away Siakam. And again, same thing. I don't want to trade Siakam in like a million picks and all that, which I admit is probably what it would take. Um, but I would prefer to get a guy like more like as far as fit, more like a scoring wing like Paul George rather than um, Anthony Davis.
sure. I mean, I guess the argument there would be age, but time frame.
Yeah, no, but I'm just if you're gonna trade for an established star,
Right.
be more along the lines of something like that.
Sure. I see what you're saying.
Which, again, I don't think Clippers take that, but
No.
you know, well,
Yeah, I mean it's worth it's just kind of food for thought. I again haven't heard anything about that, but I'm just curious on. There's also still the Ben Simmons factor here, what's going to happen with that? Are we going to see anything? Like I'm sure Philadelphia has been waiting for these new contracts to have a little bit more flexibility in what they do, but we still haven't really heard much other than certain teams are interested. Do you think a Davis for Ben Simmons trade is out of
do
question?
you, as a Lakers fan, how happy would you be about that?
It depends. It depends because I don't think let me explain why. I mean, as a Lakers fan, I want Anthony Davis there healthy. You get to a certain point where you're like, this is just who this guy is. Like, I don't think there's any changing this. Um,
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough.
and Ben Simmons' durability, I don't think Ben Simmons' durability is a question. I mean, there's other questions you're going to have with a guy like Ben Simmons, and it's scary because we
Yeah,
haven't seen this guy play in so long now that I'm like, well, fuck. But I think
but that's why this
defensively,
is an interesting trade because you're trading, negatives from this point of view for negatives from this point of view. So
yeah.
I'm curious to see what you think about. Like, would you, if the Lakers announced that they did that, what would your gut instinct be? Excitement rather than disappointment, or disappointment rather than excitement?
Hmm. I don't know. It's
Really?
hard. Yeah, I don't know because I think disappointment is my initial thought.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what
Okay.
I mean? Because like it's like damn, it's a shame that this Davis thing couldn't stick out because of Davis's health. Because it's like the what could have been will kill you because we won a title and Davis, at full force, like he could be the best player in the world at full force. But
Could be.
I think I that could easily be swayed by if I'm watching the Lakers play lockdown defense and Ben Simmons is like easily looking like the defensive player of the year and they are just shutting teams down and they're just bullying people with size and fast break tempo and Ben Simmons looks durable and looks like he can run the show when LeBron's not there and maybe they do something with Westbrook and I don't know. So there's a lot that goes behind it. Am I a fan of Westbrook, LeBron, and Simmons? No.
Yeah, yeah. Let's assume let's just forget about
Well,
that
I
there.
mean, yeah, because that's the thing, right? With I'm kind of piecing that in my mind with those three together, and I'm like, how does that even possibly work?
No, no, for sure, for sure. What I really want to get at though is just looking at them one for one to see to try and gauge how you
Sure.
value
So if,
Simmons.
if we say that maybe like let's just say they trade Westbrook first, they could get some shooters, like whatever it is, and then they do that trade.
Yeah,
So
sure.
like thinking of Ben Simmons and LeBron together as the kind of the two piece. Defensively, I love it. I think it's scary. I think it's so
But
scary.
more than Davis and LeBron.
I mean, no, but it's is Davis on the floor? Like that's my thing. Is Davis come playoff time? Can I rely on Davis to be on the floor?
Hmm.
I just don't know if I can, man. I honestly don't know if I can. Like watching the guy play gives me anxiety. I just have so much anxiety watching him play. It feels like every single game there's something, dude. And it's just like it's gotten to a point now where I'm like, yo, I just want consistency. Like I'm so frustrated
I hear you, man. I
and
hear you.
and it's not even on a thing where I don't think Anthony Davis is a great player, but maybe it's just how he's being utilized in LA. I thought they were trying to utilize him as the five. I think Vogel wants him as the five, and I think there's just a lot of pushback from him to play the five. I don't think, and then I think the argument you could make is like, can he bang around as a five? But it's like,
That's the thing. That's the
and
thing. I
and
think ideally he's a five, but you don't want him. You want to conserve that body. Maybe you save the five for the playoffs. But
right, but then it's like if he's running around as a four and he's being more mobile and he's bringing the ball up and he's trying to like then I still have concerns for how he plays as a four. So like I'm like, damn man, is it at the point where I'm just concerned about this guy no matter what he's doing?
sounds like it.
Ben Simmons seems like he's durable. From what I've seen, seems like a very durable type of player. Anything can happen in the NBA, but I
I
just
mean,
don't.
the
I don't
problem
love the
with Ben
Westbrook
Simmons
fit.
is like yeah, no, for sure. But the problem to me with Ben Simmons, like I mean, you want to say he's durable, but yet he's played 0 games this year and he's not even injured. So it's like,
Yeah, I'm speaking
no,
strictly off of what he's done when he's
mhm.
played, right?
Yeah, but this is something that I think you would have to take into consideration too. Like probably his best case scenario is ending up on the Lakers and playing, learning from LeBron. I mean,
Oh
as
yeah.
a player, probably there's no place that would make more sense. And plus, it's in LA, which obviously he wants.
Hmm.
Uh, so I do think he would buy into that, and I don't. I think that would
Yeah.
more than likely prevent anything like this from ever happening again. However, he is doing this right now, and it's such a
Ka-
bad look
for sure,
that
but
I think that
Kawhi did
doing
this, right? Like I'm not worried about that. Like
it.
Kawhi didn't want to go play for the Spurs and he pouted and got his way and then they traded him and he won a chip. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
hold it
wait.
against him. No, but Kawhi was there was a certain point where Kawhi was playing for the Clippers where he basically refused to play for them ever again. It didn't take as long, and the Spurs traded out of it and got DeRozan and Jakob, right? Like they made the move early enough to not let it stretch to be beyond this point. But I don't look at this as anything that can't be. Now, mind you, with him not playing in so
Plus,
much time frame, that gives me concern. It gives me concern that he hasn't played in
I don't.
months.
I wouldn't compare those two situations. I think they're pretty different. And the other thing too is that like, even if you want to look at it that way, Kawhi is still at that point was a Finals MVP. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And
I'm not comparing. Yeah,
ever, but
not gonna
he's
compare.
definitely got more juice, let's say, than Ben Simmons seems to think he has.
Oh, I mean, Kawhi Leonard is a much better player than Ben Simmons at that point, even when he was doing this, and
So,
he had more juice, I guess you could say, to actually pull that off, like to do a move like that and make people not go, oh, Kawhi is being a little diva princess. But I I don't think I would necessarily. I don't have any concerns that if Ben Simmons went to LA and played with LeBron, that he would be pulling this. I don't. That wouldn't be a concern of mine. But what would be a concern of mine is, spacing, him needing the ball in his hand, the fit with Westbrook. Those things are concerns. But I don't think Ben Simmons, acting out right now in Philadelphia and carrying over into LA would be a concern of mine personally. But I hear what you're saying. It's still something that's happening, and you have to be made aware of it.
You have to take it into consideration.
Yeah,
is what
for
I'm saying.
sure, for sure, for sure. And I think it's hard to say with that one. I mean, I don't know. I assume that it would be more of like the Westbrook would be kind of the centerpiece around that trade. But I guess you also got to ask yourself: is Daryl Morey going to trade for Russell Westbrook when he's done that in his career before and it hasn't worked? Right? I just don't see that happening ever. So,
No chance.
not really sure about how that pans out. We are over the hour. We're at an hour 5, so we should be cutting this next kind of couple minutes here. Is there anything you wanted to touch on that we haven't? We kind of was all over the board today. I just didn't have anything too planned. I just wanted to kind of free ball it a bit more. But anything that I've missed or you want to touch on that we haven't spoken about? Any big stories that I might have missed? Anything that was kind of on your radar that we haven't touched on? We are over the hour, so we should cut it relatively soon. But if there's any last minute thoughts,
I'm pretty happy with the way it went today. I'm looking forward to next couple games coming up. I would just say to everybody out there, stay safe. We got a little bit of stress level going up with the holidays and everything, but I think we can all get through it. So everybody stay safe, stay calm, and we'll be okay.
agreed. And I will be traveling back home for Christmas, so the setup might not be the same, but hopefully we can do a episode together around Christmas
It'd be
time.
nice. I could actually see you for once.
Yeah, exactly. And we can maybe do something around Christmas time, a Christmas episode.
All right.
And probably would just go up to YouTube. I don't know about Twitch, but this one will go up to YouTube after we're done. And yeah, we'll hopefully continue into the new year with the same kind of setup, layout, structure, all that. So yeah, good episode today, man. Nice talking to you. I will see you soon. And yeah,
It's the block party, baby.
it's the Block Party, episode 3. You know what it is. And we'll have new episodes coming hopefully every week. Peace, guys.